I just got back from 3 different conferences over the last month. No one's talking about this. How is no one like at least doing a mental exercise? Because this is coming very, very fast. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Multipliers podcast. I've got Sam Carlson here. Hey, Sam.
What's up?
And then, of course, Michael Belasco, otherwise Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett. To the left, fins to the right. Jimmy Buffett.
So Michael did not join us for episode 1. Episode 2 was a special episode that I did with Alex Gampel. Actually recorded it before we ultimately launched the Multipliers podcast, but I felt like Alex was a great fit for one of the early episodes of Multipliers. What he's doing at A.CRE, has the potential to dramatically change how homes get built in the United States. But so here we are, episode 3, and finally, Michael joins us. In fact, Michael, you were out on vacation. I think that's the ultimate multiplier, by the way, is spending time with kids. Tell us what you did.
Yeah, well, funnily, I worked on some multiplier stuff because I just, I got really excited about some things that actually you shared with me. But yeah, we went, back, I would say in, I think like October it was, we took the kids to Universal, and my oldest son is like a diehard Harry Potter fan. And my youngest is a Lego guy. And it was like, we didn't realize it, but it turned out to be this vacation for my oldest son. So we had to make up for it. We went back down to Orlando into Legoland, and we drove down to Fort Lauderdale and took a little cruise out to the Bahamas. So it was nice, all while working on some multiplier stuff too, which I'm excited to talk about today as well, if we get around to it. But yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, you were like blowing my slack up as you were building
out on the open ocean.
Out on the open ocean. I mean, isn't it kind of cool how those some of my best work I get done on weekends because I'm not flooded with emails and slacks.
Dude, all my best work I get done on the weekends or even at nights. When during the day you're working on whatever task related stuff, it seems like it seems for whatever reason you don't get like that clear big picture thinking. I don't know why that is, but at least I don't anyway. And that happens on nights and on weekends. And on weekends, I feel kind of bad sometimes. Like a Saturday will roll around and I'll be like, "Hey honey, what do we got going on?" And if there's nothing, I kind of like
go
out to my office.
The weekdays you have obligations to the work that you've been building forever, but on nights and weekends, it's like your passions can fill in. It's like, the things you kind of want to do, and now you have the space to do it. And unfortunately, it might creep in on vacation or...
And it's kind of like access too. Like people know, hey, we have access to, Sam or whatever. So you're kind of on alert because you don't want to miss, if people rely on you or need your whatever for whatever reason. I think that's part of it too. But yeah, nights and weekends, I almost get energized at nighttime, which is kind of not great.
Yeah, I mean, last night I could not fall asleep. We're prepping for this launch at A.CRE Agents, and there's all these moving parts. Long ago, I once did a play. Okay. And it was kind of a big production. I mean, it wasn't a big production. It was like a community theater, but a big production in the sense that there were thousands of people that had bought tickets and we did dress rehearsals and it ran for several weeks. And your first show or two, I'm acting like I'm like a theater guy. I'm not like one show, but
I was going to say, dude, I've been here for a long time. I do not remember this production.
Every time, I feel like every year I learn some new major piece of your life.
Yeah, I did. I played the part of the bum in this called Gift of the Magi. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember now.
Anyway, so last night I felt kind of like that, where there are so many things that you need to get done. You either go in this negative loop of everything's going to go wrong. You probably experienced that when you opened your RV park, Michael, last year. It's like there's so many things that need to get done. You've got this deadline. You're not going to hit everything. So then you start going, okay, what can I push that will not overly dissatisfy, the people who have expectations about this thing?
I don't think I've ever felt that more than when we launched the accelerator, to be honest. More so than even the RV park that we...
Really?
Oh yeah. I felt that big time during that moment.
Yeah, I felt that, I guess, that with the accelerator too. That was long enough ago that I didn't remember. Anyway, yeah, some of the best work though, nights and weekends. I do wonder, guys, what was life like we're old enough. We didn't work. What was professional life like pre-email, pre-text messages and Slack?
We're not that old. Pre-email?
I
Well,
am.
no, I mean,
I
we
delayed
weren't
my
professionally
professional life as
working.
long as I could, so, I have to imagine.
No, but
No, I wonder
it
if it
is.
was more like our nights and weekends though, where you don't like during the day, I'm just constantly
Um,
distracted,
Yeah.
and sometimes I just wanna put my head down and get some work done, and that happens on nights and weekends at the expense, although if, I've got great wife and kids that are happy to let dad get out of their hair.
You gotta be careful of that. Yep. Yeah, I found
yeah,
myself
you know,
having, because that's my same thing. It's like, well, I have a great wife and kids who are cool to let me do it, but I'm like, "Okay, should I?" You know what I mean? For my own, because part of it is there is some fulfillment in it. We get to play the game of building businesses, right? In a way. And so I wanna be, just sometimes be mindful of, well, maybe I should just be in here a little bit more. So I try and have a
Yeah,
good enough balance, but at the same time, you know, everybody feeds off of, even in your own household, like everybody feeds off of progress in some way, right? But so I think it is balanced. But going back to like what was it like before? Remember when
yeah.
we had our mortgage company? So this is
Yeah, but email was
2006.
still around then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm like thinking back to, I mean, the first business we had was a lawn care business, and the one piece of technology we had was a Nokia uh, phone,
Cell phone,
right?
yeah.
And that was the entire business model. We had like this cell phone, and we had a neon sign that said "We mow great," and that was the marketing, that was the sales, that was the customer acquisition, that was everything.
Do you
And
remember
then
our
we
phone
went,
number?
no,
250 something.
oh,
I was hoping you
I
remember,
was
but,
gonna say that's, oh, no, I
no,
don't
but I
I'm
remember
mean,
that.
pilot on this.
it's kind of almost like pining for simpler times. It's
Yeah,
easy to do. I'm sure, there's
well
a whole other set of challenges.
Well, I think we're hitting on an important point, like, even for today, to bring it today, I had this challenge of same thing, getting through the day and hits 5 p.m., 4 p.m., I work from home, so the kids are coming home from school. I try to work early so I can, take some time when they come home, and I think what I'm starting to do now, because there's so much, I feel like we've hit this creative explosion, and I might even be late to the party than you guys, but, like, with the opportunities with all the AI that's come out. I mean, now I feel like I have 15 projects that I'm working on and creating these blocks of time where they're as important to me as taking a call, And so filtering that out, and every week I'll look at my calendar now and I'm blocking. I need at least 2 hours of uninterrupted time at least, where nobody can talk to me. My notifications are on silent and it's just deep work. And then I'll ping you, Spencer, for things. Just kidding. But, I feel like that's important to try to get back to those times if what we're trying to do is get to the deep work, which is probably what people have more time to do. At least I can imagine that. The problem is deep work, getting your mind into that mode where you've finally gone deep without a ping, or even when we started, I had Slack pinging. It was just like,
Yeah. Well,
so
this
setting that
is
time.
real, and I hope that this new tech can solve this problem because I don't think this was a problem in previous generations, and the problem is noise that creates friction in your day. I say noise, like the small little things, the Slack
Distractions.
message that you feel like you have to respond to immediately, the
Yeah.
emails that, and I hate seeing like a number on my email box. It's like, oh god, I clear my email box out so I can like truly focus. And I don't get emails as much or Slack messages as much on the weekend. But yesterday, Joe and I met with a senior person at a big real estate firm, and we're doing some one-on-one work with them. And we're talking about some tasks to automate on their behalf. Automate, let's teach an AI to do some of these things. And this exercise always goes, okay, what's the impact? And measure impact in time and in dollars, either saved or additional revenue earned, right? There's this concept of impact. And we hit this task that on paper is not that high of impact. It takes him maybe 10, 15 minutes to do, and he does it maybe once a day. And so then you run that out, it's like you're talking what, 50 hours a year, I
Yeah,
mean,
not
I
very
guess
much.
that's still my math might be wrong, so correct me if I but the point is it's not that huge of an impact relative to some of the other things we were looking at, where we're talking hundreds and hundreds of hours, I think 800 hours on one of the other tasks we have. But he said something that relates to this conversation, which is, "Yeah, it only takes me 10, 15 minutes, but it creates mental friction for me." He's gotta
Mm,
stop everything he's doing, and
mental
it's one of those
friction.
things, like, he has to do, and he has to, like, change his mindset, I don't know, use a different part of his brain to do this 10 to 15-minute task that's, by the way, highly feasible to automate, and we're like, "Okay, yes, the impact may not be high in terms of dollars saved or earned and or time saved, but what it does for his day and his mental place was important enough that it's something that we tagged for automation."
Yeah, that's a
That's a huge
great
thing.
mental friction or even emotional distraction too. You always
Yeah.
get to certain things you have to do every day, and there's probably many of it can be automated. So you're right, time, but it's actually the stress is extreme, but like those subtle fluctuations, right? Like that's why if you can block out and be not distracted at all, that's a perfect
So talk
example.
to us about this emotional thing. I don't feel it as much as you do, and I
Yeah.
mean that with love. So Michael cares. Uh, I mean, I care. I care. Don't get me wrong. Michael has
Yeah.
an empathy that I wish I had. Michael, you see a picture that maybe is a little bigger than I do, which is a positive. On the risk for you is you see a big picture and you start like quantifying all the potential risks in that bigger picture. Where I tend to be a little narrower. Sam's even narrower, by the way. Very few things or nothing stresses Sam. A lot more stresses Michael, and I kind of sit somewhere in the middle. How do you manage that?
Uh, well, let's first kind of dive. I mean, there's a lot of things on the macro. I mean, the world is changing at such a pace right now. So just my feeling, there's little stresses. Like what I was really referring to was like I have ambitions and things I want to get done. And then like there's things I have to do. And the emotional annoyance of that is like, I gotta go do it, but I'm gonna go do it. But like actually what you're talking about is probably more important. And I feel like a lot more people are thinking about stuff like that today. Uh, the thing that you both have is you just have this drive towards the future and you guys look at it and it's like no looking back. And maybe I'm just projecting how I think you guys think, but it's like, you guys are a burn the boat strategy, we're going, and I love that, by the way. It's like you guys get in and it's like, "This is it, we gotta go, here comes a wave, we gotta ride this thing," and, like, no looking back, and so, I feel like that's a good compliment for all of us, but
Yeah.
for me, I'm looking at, like, the world of, like, stability, my kids maybe it's my kids are younger, and I'm thinking about, we live in, like, a middle to upper middle class neighborhood, and I'm seeing the fabric of life and whether it's politics, whether it's new technology coming, and I'm seeing things that are just bringing me lots of optimism, but also causing me lots of anxiety too. Like I feel like there are things going on that are tugging at the social fabric of not just the United States, but like the entire world. And it's a time that we're in now that, I read Ray Dalio, and a lot of people say, you look for the big patterns in the world, and I love those people because they allow me to breathe a little bit more because there's times you're like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" Like the stability of that we grew up in the '80s, the '90s, early 2000s. You go, you get like, where are we going? Do public schools even adequately prepare you for like, these are the things I'm thinking about,
Yeah.
eyes wide open, that cause me anxiety, and it's like, okay, and I would argue that Spencer and Sam, both of you guys kinda ground me in, "Here we go, like, let's get on this ride, like, we gotta go forward regardless." So, that's what kinda calms me, but also gives me more anxiety, which why I don't wanna be distracted because now I'm, like, ready to go. Now I kinda see stuff, I see things going on subtly, early, maybe not even early, that you could look at politics, you could look at things that are happening in the tech space, and you could kind of see things. So anyway, the thing that calms me though is just, the team that I have and just the ambition and the self-belief in what we're doing and what I think I'm capable of doing in this new world.
You
I
know,
feel
let
like
me
we're entering.
let me jump in here just a little bit. So, and as you're talking, I mean, by the way, I think both Spencer and I feel stress and anxiousness from time to time.
I'm sure.
That's a natural human. But yeah, I think there is definitely personality traits where it's like, you know what, it is what it is. But I was writing, I was putting together this new Substack article, and I kind of like, it's really good for me to do these things because you go back into your own experience. And for a lot of the people who will listen to this, if you were around in 2008 for the financial crisis, it was really interesting. And I just want to spend a minute on maybe one of the reasons why I do get some fear stuff from time to time, but one of the reasons why I'm really more optimistic than ever. So Spencer and I had a mortgage company in 2008, and in 2008, everybody knows what happened. I mean, banks were shutting down every single day. There was a website that you would go to, and it was like, these 4 banks went out of business today, right? And I mean, we were at the time, we were 20, 27, 28 years old. So we were young. We had hustle, we had drive, we had the ambition of young entrepreneurs. But when the market turned around, I learned something really important. It actually took me about 7 to 8 years after that happened to learn this, which was, every person is like, there's a mirror effect. What you look at in the mirror is what you get. And at the time, we had no skills. Like, Spencer operationally was great at running the day to day, and he was doing all that. Like, that was his thing. I had the hustle. I'd go out and recruit people and all that stuff, but there was like very little strategy,
That's
right?
right.
There was no developed skill sets. Nobody was like educating themselves on anything personally. And so it was like, when you looked at the mirror, there wasn't much to look at. But I'm 46 now, and that happened in an era where you had a huge market contraction. That market contraction was outside of my control, but I did not have the ingredients to control what I could control, and so I was controlled. Right? Now, what's happening now and today, there's two big differences, which for me, Michael, to your point, like, I'm looking around and I'm like, there's sets of waves coming. I want to ride some, and some. I think there's going to be a big one that's rolling in today, guys. Like, I think we're going to see a big wave rolling in. Let's make sure we all get on that one. The difference is number one, we don't have a contraction. There's a productivity explosion happening right now. That's number one. And number two, the skills that collectively we have gathered from 26 until 46. Spencer, 46, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say,
I
wait,
turned,
you're
I
not
turned
47 yet.
47. I turned
Yeah,
47 this
July.
year, but yeah, I'm 46
You
years.
know, it's
Peak out.
it's completely different initial conditions. And one of the things, it's so funny because as we go through this, I'm thinking about, the scenario that Spencer, you were in. I'm like, there are things during my day that I cannot have somebody else do. Taste, judgment calls, expertise, this, like, hard decisions. Like, hey, do we put money here? Or do we? I mean, there are, or taking information from this camp, translating it over to this camp, and seeing how these different things are going to play together. AI is not. It doesn't play a role. It can play a role, but it can't do and perform those things. So I think the difference, again, is, I think there's people who wait for blind luck, and then I think there's people who make their luck. And the only difference are who's looking in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
And today we have, like, productivity is exploding. And if you've got the right skills, you're going to have some great things coming. That's my personal, maybe I'm a glass half full guy, but I think that's, from my experience, even, I feel like that's what's going to happen.
So this interesting thing happened over the weekend. I hope, Michael, it's okay that I share. And I won't go into too much detail, but in short, Michael hit a realization that this AI thing, whatever AI exactly is or becomes, is going to fundamentally change society. Or there's some real probability of that. I mean, nothing is absolute, but there's some real probability of that. And what's interesting is he's having this realization while at the same time there are two papers. One was, it was a blog post or maybe it was a LinkedIn post
Yeah.
by some random tech guy that I don't know, and I don't think most anyone knew, that for some reason went viral. It was called "Something Big Is Happening," I believe was the title of this. This came out like 10 days ago. Moved the markets, and was running all around in the tech circles, which those are the people who are really talking about AI at scale. And then you had this Citrini research. I think it was posted over the weekend, or if not Monday. It moved the market on Monday fairly significantly. And what it did was it explored. So first off, they are AI bulls, and then they stopped. How I understand how this thing came together, they stopped and they said, "Well, what if what we think can happen happens? What does the world look like?" And they were
Mhm.
describing a world in which they succeeded, but others didn't, and the follow-on effects of that. Well, interestingly, Michael's having a similar moment over the weekend, and we use Marco Polo, the three of us, to like share thoughts. And Michael sends this Marco Polo that I missed. And so Michael and Sam had this fun conversation, and I was like in the cave working on A.CRE agents. And so I come out of the cave and I see this right at the same time I was reading some of this other stuff. I'm like, man, talk about timely. To the point where, ironically, my Waymo back from the gym yesterday, I'm having this conversation with A.CRE agents asking about, hey, what does this mean for markets? Like, which submarkets win or lose in this like new paradigm? And some of it is good and some of it's bad. Either way, it is the sort of transformation that you see when we stop doing agricultural work
Yeah.
and you go from 90% of society working in ag to 1%. And what happens to the rest of society? How do they, yeah. And
Yeah.
so Michael,
Yeah.
I'll
I mean,
setting you up for that.
yeah, no, it's a great set. The article you sent or the PDF was like it was kind of serendipitous in the way that it like aligned with my somewhat subtle like existential crisis about where I live even and what came about was I started building this app that was prompted from a question in the accelerator. And the fact that I could do it and do it so well and work with a team of LLMs to build it and the sophistication behind not only building the app, but like the intelligence behind it, the strategy behind it. Like it was decision making in ways that you couldn't do in 2024 when, you chat GPT was somewhat dumb, right? And now you have all these different LLMs and some are good for this, some are good for that. And like I would like this would cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to build if I wanted to do this 3 years ago. And I'm like, well, and in my mind, it's like, where does this money go? Right? It goes to people doing jobs. And I have a lot of friends in my neighborhood and where I live. And, I kind of know what they do. They're in marketing. A lot of them are CPAs, they're, it's traditional, like white collar, decent paying, good jobs. They have nice houses and stuff. And just the last few times I hung out with folks, I started asking, like, what is it that you do? Like, what do you do? Like, I get it. You're in marketing, right? But what do you do? Tell me. And the reason I was asking was because, like, if I can do this on my own in my basement, I'm in my office, but like if anybody can do this on in their basement, like, does that put my friends and family at risk? Like, what are you guys doing? And so like I kept asking these questions. I got to the bottom of it. And like for everyone, I just kind of got this feeling like a little concerned, right? And I felt this underlying tone of there was this subtle awareness, but not true awareness of like, I have people for a lot of friends do coding for like marketing companies, things like that. And it made me realize that like it's not today, right? But it's something can be happening in the next couple of months, years, where like if everybody in my neighborhood can be replicated, not only that, these are 20 years of working, right? That now I can show up and pay $20 a month to a couple LLMs and get the same technological expertise, not
Yeah.
only technological expertise, but design expertise. Like, how does the human mind want to see this information presented?
Yeah.
Is like, it can do that. And so I'm like, man, like, okay, here's some of my friends. What could they do if things change? What happens to my neighbor? What happens to the value of my home? What happens to all these things? Where do people go? And in that paper, that hypothetical paper that you had mentioned, where it talks about 2028 headlines, right? And like people are going into blue collar work or they're doing Uber. And then, this whole like theoretical play that played out felt like further reinforcement of this like challenging time ahead, I would say. And it's like, what do you do now? How do you put yourself in a position to take advantage? Not me, but like everyone. My neighbor who coded for years, right? And so anyway,
Yeah.
Did you feel like you made a bunch of new friends? They're like, hey, this guy finally is taking a bunch of interest in this.
no,
Like
I
this
mean,
all the time, I thought he was just a jerk.
So quick aside, most AI platforms are built for tech engineers, not for commercial real estate professionals. They require you to become a prompt engineer, to understand which tools are going to do what, to ultimately track the latest and greatest models so that you get an output that you can trust. That's why we built A.CRE agents. It's a series of AI coworkers built for commercial real estate by commercial real estate professionals, allowing you to harness the power of AI without having to learn to use AI. So head over to creagents.com to learn more. And with that, let's get back to the pod.
but you get into stuff.
But here's the other side of that. Here's the other side of that. Okay, so there are things shifting and changing, but there's always, as soon as that happens, just think about economics, okay? Just the way markets are created. Let's say that a friend loses their job and then maybe it starts happening a little bit faster. Well, then that opens up a market for reskilling, right?
Yes,
so now
but
you
what's
have to
the
reskill
reskill?
to, what's that?
And here's what this is me playing sort of the other side of that. It's like, and I hope it's okay to go here, but like when you talk about, you said like there's so much productivity, or I forget the word you use. There's a lot of innovation. There's productivity. We've never been more productive. But human beings are not producing. It's AI that's producing, which
Well,
is
hold on. So
yeah.
this is where we go back to, so number one, my first point is you have these problems. Problems always create new markets. That's how markets are created. That's number one. Number two, I look at my workflow in a given day. I could fundamentally stop working if it was all productivity based. Like if I didn't like to keep working, I could stop working by the amount of productivity I output now around 12 o'clock if I wanted to, because I can, in fact, if you guys want to see a workshop that I'm doing on Thursday, I put together a workshop that would have taken me a day and a half between outline, concept, slide by slide, the storytelling aspects, everything that has to happen. You want to know how long it took me, Michael? It took me 20 minutes. It took me 20 minutes, and this was my workflow. I just want just to give you an understanding of what, and this could be the multiplying thing. I use Manus because it's my preferred new tool of choice. It'll build websites. It'll do so many different things. And one of the things that it does really awesome is it'll do slides. Okay. And so here's what I had. Here were my recipe ingredients. I had past workshops I had already done. Okay. So it knew my process. It knew my flow. I had the previous workshop I did 2 weeks ago, and I was building off of that. So I gave it that. I had an illustration style. So I wanted it to be illustrated in a certain way. So I gave it those. And then I had an outline that I had created in Claude. So I created this outline in Claude. And by the way, I created that outline in Claude with a project that I had created in Claude that helps me create my workshops. Okay. So I created that project once, which if you don't know what a project is, it's kind of like a GPT or just a pre-built process, a pre-built task. It's a pre-built task in A.CRE agent words, right? So it had all of the things in there. I went in, I answered 6 questions in my project builder. It gave me the entire outline. I went in, I read through. I'm like, okay, there's 3 things missing. Fix those. Done. So that probably actually took 20 or 30 minutes. I discounted that part. My bad. I took that, I put it over into Manus, and I said, okay, I gave it a 4-step prompt. I said, you are my workshop creation professional. You know my style. You know everything about me. I gave it the context. I said, these are previous workshops I've done. This is the workshop I'm building off of. This is the illustration style I have. And this is the outline I'm building on top of, or I'm building off of. task, create for me a slide that is in my style. And then last thing is always ask me any clarifying questions you need to perform this function at a high level. I did that. It asked me 2 questions. I answered it, and then I went to lunch and I came back and it was done. I had to add 2 slides to it. That would have taken me
Yeah.
a day and a half to 2 days. And the big part, Spencer, what you were talking about, like the brain power, like the actual suck of my mental
Yeah.
focus would have been it's enormous to put a workshop together because
Yeah.
there's a lot of thinking
You
that
got
goes
you
in.
got to block out for those sorts of I mean, it's the same for building a model. It's like, okay, I need to block out 4 hours of uninterrupted time because it takes me 15 minutes to get in the zone and it takes me 15 minutes to get out of the zone. I don't know if you guys experience this, but my wife will come by to visit at the office. And sometimes I love it, and sometimes I'm like, I'm in the zone, sweetheart. Like, please don't get me out of the zone. But I love her too much not to. Okay, so let me push back a little bit. I hear so Sam's point is this: these things can be co-workers to us. They magnify us. That is the multiplier effect, and I think that is the next X number of years of this stuff. I think that is how we as people get max value out of this. Is these become partners to our work, and they take a 2-hour task and we orchestrate them to do it. Another thing that I'm really excited about today, 2026, 2027, is this concept of delegating work to these things, but
Yeah.
at scale. So you did one workshop at one time and you went to lunch. But imagine you had 3 workshops next week. And you had 3 instances of, your tool of choice, Manus. You had 3 instances of Manus running 3 processes at the same time. And you go to lunch and you come back and you have 3 of those done. Now, real estate work is there's a higher bar that is required for the work. And so we don't automate anything that is a task that takes a human longer than 20 minutes. That's because the quality of the output is not sufficient. I can't have a Excel file come back and have 3 values buried somewhere that are wrong. Okay, it's going to now take me longer to find those 3 values than it just would have taken me to do the thing in the first place. And so we focus on tasks that are less than 20 minutes. And so you go, okay, well, it's going to take the AI 5 to 10 minutes to finish it. Like, what's the multiplier effect on that? Well, the multiplier effect comes by delegating. The tech term they call orchestrating. But it's basically, let's say I have 5 OMs on my desk. I do 5 OMs with 5 rent rolls and 5 T12s all at once. Now I get 5, 10, 15 tasks running at once. Yeah, each one of them I could have done on my own in 20 minutes, but I give those to a team of AI coworkers who do 2 hours of the work in that 10 minutes, and then I spend another 10, 15 validating it, and all of a sudden I've got 2 hours of work done that I did that maybe took me 30 minutes. That's the real power of it. No, so that's today. But I think what Michael's world is describing, and Sam, the difference between maybe you and us is real estate. We think very long term. Right, our traditional hold
I'm
period's
a
10
long-term
years.
thinker. Come on.
Well, I mean, in marketing, it's like, you're not making 10-year bets. And
That's true.
so Michael has this lens of what does a 10-year world look like? And I just had after this conversation over the weekend, I had that little discussion in my Waymo asking, what's the Detroit and what's the
Yeah.
San Francisco from all of
And
this? And I promise you there will be Detroits and there will be San Franciscos. And
Yeah.
I just got back from 3 different conferences over the last month. No one's talking about this. How is no one like at least doing a mental exercise? Because this is coming very, very fast. And there's a real
Yeah.
world in which 2 years from now, you have mass layoffs in knowledge work. Which are the submarkets? What are the property types that are impacted by this? And some, whatever the probability of that thing happening.
And that's right. And by the way, Sam, to your point, I mean, even stuff like, yes, all the magic and amazingness, like the fact that now, I can build a dashboard and look at my properties and know exactly what's going on. Marketing metrics, I can see pace reports, I can see anything. I've done that on my own. I can do that now. I push a button and it all spits out anytime I want, right? All of that's happening, but there are people, and by the way, we are thinking about it and preparing and trying to think there are thousands of people who just their minds aren't geared in that way, right? Like they're not the like Sam, you're a serial entrepreneur and you could sell sand at the beach. I've watched it. And Spencer has stories about you that are incredible, by the way. But there are a lot of people that they like their world and their priorities are different. And that's great. That's okay. But how are those people, right? And a lot of these people like may live in my neighborhood, right? And it's a 5 to 10 year look where if you spent your life studying super valuable skills like coding and public accounting and all that stuff, AI can do it, and while it's not there yet, it's coming. And so what do these folks do? How do they get in front of that wave? And by the way, I have a today I have a bit of a like a pessimistic mid-range macro view. I think everything's going to resolve. I think the world will rekindle. Things will retool. I'm a long-term optimist, but I am like a midterm, near term, very concerned person, I would say. I wouldn't say I'm a
Well,
pessimist,
it's
but very concerned.
I'm telling you, everything is a skill thing, right? So if you are a person who, you know how some people like just go to their jobs and then at the end of the day they're like, I'm good, right? And they kind of do the same job and excuse me, and they seem fundamentally a bit replaceable. Yeah, that person should be semi-concerned. Or if you're like a career coaster, you should be semi-concerned. But
But those
mostly
people aren't
because
they're not plugging in, like, they're not listening to podcasts. They're not
yeah, well, I
they're
know. So
clocking in and
again, this is
clocking
the
out.
person who's listening to this. To that person is
Yeah,
like, just skill up. Start
yeah.
because you're gonna roll into your office and you'll be like, hey, I just did these things and
That's
I
the
was able to
thing
do
though,
this
like,
extra.
let me challenge that a little bit because even if you listen and I'm listening to the people that are in this space, when you say skill up, like you talk about like when we left the agricultural world and most of us were doing this, there was time to adapt. There was time for people, there was this white collar wave, slow adaptation. Well, when you're moving out of these jobs and you think there's a time to do the next job that AI can't touch, AI is already learning it. It's already learning the next move, right? It already knows where you're going and what to think about. When you listen to all these people who are like at the forefront, listen to Elon Musk. I even watched this thing. There's the Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
Steve,
Yeah, Diary of a CEO.
he interviewed Tony Robbins interview. You guys should check that out. It's really good. But he's actually heavily invested in a lot of different AI things. Like, what do you tell? And there's some other guys. Yes, like, what do you tell your grandkids? What do you tell your children? And all of them. And then he flipped to a clip of Elon Musk even, where Elon Musk, they asked him that question. He just sat there for like 12 seconds. It was like, sometimes I don't want to think about it because it could demotivate me. Elon Musk said that, and then the other guys said, create, create, be creators, not skill up, right? Because it's like invent, create, get into your passions, because that is something that AI can multiply and potentially, help you along. So I don't know, by the way, this is total like projection. We can't predict the future. Humans will survive. I'm not worried about that, but eyes wide open.
So what do you do? What are you telling your, and I know your kids aren't college age, mine are, but let's imagine that your kids are college age. What are you advising them to do?
Um,
And that's a question for all 3 of us, by the way.
yeah, I'll go first. It's off the cuff. You know, I think it would be similar to what I said before. I'm a serial entrepreneur, control your own destiny. I've had a lot of parental figures in my life, and I've seen the difference between like, getting a job and carving your own path. And I would say carving your own path is the way to go. So make sure, and I would tend to agree with. It wasn't just Elon Musk that said create. There was two other folks that said it. Follow your passions, create, learn, be a tenacious learner. Learn everything you can and just constantly learn at this time.
Yeah.
And just seize the opportunity when it's right. Definitely be keeping up on AI stuff. That's topical though, right? That would be what I would say at the moment.
What are you telling? I mean, you do have college age kids.
Yeah. I think that fundamentally, like, there's tons of opportunities. Like, I mean, you want a job that's going to pay a lot of money in the next decade. You're talking about a 10-year. I'm betting on electricians. Anybody in infrastructure, electricians, like that's
Yeah.
not going anywhere, right?
Healthcare, you know,
Healthcare. You're talking. about, I was telling Spencer and Gert this yesterday. I mean, cybersecurity. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys read that story about the one of the VPs or one of the high ups over at Claude who took, or I don't know if it was Claude. It was one of the big firms, and took this Claw bot and said, "I just want you to only clear my inbox." Did you hear this story?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I didn't, no.
And it
I
went
think it
hog
was I
wild.
think it
It
was
like,
Anthropic, but yeah, it was like a high up person at one of these, and it went
yeah.
rogue effectively.
And so it's like, listen, number one, there the people at the very top. Okay, I'm going to tell you what advice I'm giving my kids real quick, but I do want to make a point that has I
Okay.
feel like, because I am in advertising and I see how attention works. Every single person at these massive companies has one play, and they use it over and over and over again. And I like to think that they're being genuine. So either they're genuine and they're just bought into a way that they speak, or they're using a playbook that works better than any other one, which is what? It's the 24-hour news cycle that only gives you scary stuff, fear. And so selling fear gets the attention. It monopolizes attention. So even Elon Musk, as much as I love the guy, he uses that tactic to get all of the attention. And he's the most valuable man on the planet. It has worked for, he doesn't pay for marketing because he knows how to garner that type of
He only bought
attention.
X.
Well, so he bought a 24-hour news cycle. This is, you're proving my point, right? And then you have Sam Altman, who bought OpenClaw, which, in my personal opinion, this is my opinion, it's a PR stunt. Like, I think that he bought it because he's buying attention. I think that's why there was so much hype. Anyway, so to all of this, and I have my little bird's eye into AI, by the way, is I've owned a software company for the past 6 years, and I get to see how we use AI. And we are reskilling, we are repurposing our developers, but we're not getting rid of the ones that play a really important role. But there are those who just show up and they don't want to use the tools. So to your friends who write code, jump headfirst into
Yeah.
writing code with AI.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's that. Anyway. So
So,
anyway,
you know, by the way, I'm optimistic about like a lot of things. You know, just to kind of push back a little bit on where I've drawn conclusions, at least when it comes to I got complicated thoughts, but from the optimistic
you are a
side, yeah.
complicated guy.
But the pessimistic side has just been from like observation, you know, and just being eyes wide open. You know, it wouldn't be like, you know, yeah, my algorithm's got some doom in it, I'm not gonna lie, but like that's not where I'm coming from with
So
this.
let's make some actual predictions. They don't have to be too concrete. This is what I think happens for the next
Well,
X
wait, what are
number
you
of years.
telling your kids, Spencer? I don't think you
Yeah, I mean, I think tangible things, pretty good place. Like, so an electrician example of a tangible thing. By the way, if I'm sitting in real estate seats right now, I want to own real estate less than I want to do real estate. And so that may be getting equity in deals that your firm has, like insisting on equity in deals that your firm has, or starting to I think hard assets in a world in which AI has more and more impact. I think just owning hard assets is helpful, and that's why you're seeing gold go to 5,000 or whatever it's at. And Sam,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we played around in gold for a while,
Yeah.
decades
It's
ago, and it
crazy
was
how
what.
much it costs right now. It's nuts.
And so I think being in hard assets, I think doing work that's tangible. I also think high risk outputs. And so high risk might be a pilot. Okay, I don't think anytime soon humans are going to get in airplanes where there's no pilot.
No way.
Surgeons, okay, yeah. I saw this ridiculous reel the other day. It's like all surgeons are going away because you have AI. I'm like,
I
I'm
saw
not
the
letting
same one.
anyone. I'm not letting
3
a
years.
robot operate in my heart without a human there. Now, I would love for the human to use the robot to make it more precise, but no way, right? And even things like orthodontics, it's like, oh, I can have a robot put in this. Like, I mean, maybe. And that's kind of low risk. I still think like I don't want to mess up my jaw. I want a human there, like making sure that the robot. So I think like there's just those tangible things. I also really think, and this doesn't matter whether you're young in the industry or old. And I know I'm generally talking to real estate people, but um, I think harnessing the nuance that you have that the AI at least today doesn't get. Like it's the the 10% that actually moves the needle. You have that and the AI doesn't. And harnessing it in some way. It could be the way that Sam described him harnessing his stuff. Sam spent 20 minutes, Manus did the rest. Sam's 20 minutes was the most important part of that process.
Yeah.
And Manus did the stuff that no one wants to do anyway. Well, our industry is full of that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's how I answer it to my kids. Like in practice to my kids, I have some kids that I want to go into healthcare. I have a son that I'm like, dude, come and build with me because he's a great builder. And I think for some it's building, but yeah, that's the advice I'm giving kids.
And that is that will go back again to what I was talking about with like skills. You have to develop your skills. Like the nuance you're talking about, you don't get nuance unless you get experiences, you like learn new things, you learn the right new things. And crazy enough, the fundamental stuff is the stuff that you need the most experience with. So for example, like in the accelerator, for example, right? Using Excel. Yeah, you might have some AI that can do your stuff, but you even said the fiduciary duty that these firms are going to have to make sure that their outputs are spot on. You can't abdicate that solely to a person. I mean, imagine you have an analyst who just they never went to they never learned anything about Excel. They never learned the fundamentals of real estate. They don't know anything. They're just they came from McDonald's and now they're using your AI. That's not going to happen.
Man.
Right. So the skilling up is the most important thing. Like, what is the top tier education you can get? What is the top level you can become so that when you use a tool, it is multiplying, magnifying your output. I think that let's go to the positive side of all this.
Okay.
I think that in a very near future, we go to like a 3 or 4 day work week or a 30-hour work week that is considered full-time, something along those lines. I think wages go through the roof because real money is getting created by people harnessing the power of multiplication. Spencer, when you showed me that a demo, and this isn't a plug for anything at all, it's an example, right? You showed me, and for anybody listening, I'm not real estate savvy in the sense that I don't know how to model and I don't know how to process OMs and all that kind of stuff, but I'm smart enough to read the room and to see how a system works. And when you showed me one task of in CRE agents, you can do this, it put in an OM and it'll start doing that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But then you showed me the screen where it's like, now we're going to put 4 skills on top of each other because when you do this, then you would do this, then you do this, then you would do this. I was like, the person that has that at their fingertips is the person that's going to be like very valuable to the company. Just saying. And whether or not they have equity, I think that there you go. There's another that's a shift in the market that'll take place. It's like, yeah, I want to have equity stake in what I'm doing, but I bring this power of multiplication, which means we're going to do more business.
I do think you need fewer people though. And so the question is what happens to those who lose out? Anyone who's listening here, they're likely going to be the winners of all this. If you're spending an hour listening to 3 random dudes talk about this, like you're constantly leveling up. You're going to be the winner of this because firms are going to do 2, 3, 4, 10 times as much with the same headcount. And certain people are going to do exactly what you're describing. There's others though. There's the Janice and the Bill, and no offense to Janice's or Bill who are listening.
That's rude.
Who for the last 20 years, they've done that thing and they're that cog in the wheel and they just do it over and over again. And they do not survive this. And therefore they have to retool. And I think Michael's point is moving so fast, like they can't retool. And therefore I think you have the equivalent of Rust Belt submarkets where you have those people that don't survive until the next generation. You know? I lived in Milwaukee for a while. I mean, there's a whole generation that was just kinda lost because the factories went away, and they
Yeah.
never really retooled, and their kids figured it out, their kid left. And so, anyway, I don't mean to be doom and
Yeah.
gloom because obviously
Geez, yeah, no
I'm
kidding. Let's end
positive
on
for.
that.
No, but you know what? We're facing a big change here. There's optimism if you are eyes wide open and you're willing to take the risk and you don't, right? You shouldn't feel anxiety. You can't, it's not a time for anxiety. It's a time for optimism. It's a time for
Action.
learning. It's a time for exploration. You really, anybody, if you've even gotten this far into this podcast, that's probably the biggest message. Like, just be it. And to me, it's tenacious learning right now. It's like all hands on deck, absorb as much as you can, and it's fun. But it's fun. Like,
It's
I
learning.
can't tell you how many like 3 years ago, I didn't have like I have like I even have hobby projects I'm working on right now. You guys would laugh at some of but because I have the capability to do it. It's like I have these new extensions of myself that the calculator did for
But
people.
the move, in my opinion, and I know we're getting ready to close up here. The move is to lean into it, right? It's
Agreed.
to lean into it because there a lot of really good things happen. Number one, you understand it better, right? If you're kind of on the outside, like if you've been listening to this and you're kind of just, and what I mean the outside is if you're just kind of using Chat GPT to search Google like that, all that, you're we invite you to come into it more, like lean into it more, actually learn prompting, learn what these tools, and all the tools, by the way, they're not the same anymore. They
Mm-mm.
kind of started off the same. Like the Chat GPT and the Claude seemed pretty much the same. And then Gemini came around and the Grok came around, and now they're falling into these camps. I mean, I use a variety of these tools, and it's just like having a toolbox, any other toolbox. You don't pick up a hammer when you need a screwdriver,
That's right.
right? So lean into it. Whatever your vertical is, go deep in understanding and being the most valuable team member of that thing that you can be. And those two things alone are going to put you to where you're waiting for the waves to come. At
Be the
least
first
you're
to
there.
multiply your job now is
That's
kind
right.
of
Be
yeah,
that person. Be the person that brings AI and the power of multiplication into your firm, and you are going nowhere. That's my opinion.
I couldn't agree more.
I think it's a wrap. That was a
It's a
good
wrap.
one. Thank you for watching.